Okay, so today I'm making dinner and I'm making pupusas and rice and some salsa. So pupusas are Salvadorian. Pre-Columbian pupusas were vegetarian and they were half moon shaped and they were filled with like squash and flowers and kind of local like foods that they harvested for themselves. So their agriculture included like different herbs and squash flowers were in there. And then in 1570, they started incorporating meat into them. And up until like the late 1940s, it was still like a local Salvadorian dish in like really localized central towns. And then populations began to grow and there was a war. And so like in the 1960s, populations were growing and people were moving from El Salvador to like Honduras and Guatemala. And so different variations and different cultures took on different like versions of it. So they had like different stuff they filled in it. And then in 1980, there was a civil war in 1980 there was a civil war that kind of forced a lot of El Salvadorians to move to the United States, which kind of brought it here. And so immigrants brought it here, and then the people in the United States have made their own adaptations and different things like that. And pupusas are very similar to the South American arepa, I think is how you pronounce it. And so they kind of, different people saw that and made their own adaptation based on their like culture and what they had in their climate. Okay, so this is all the stuff you should need for the pupusas, and I'll go over that later. And this is all the stuff for the salsa and then the rice. Okay, so I'm gonna make the salsa first because we need that for the rice to put in. And the specific recipe is Salvadorian salsa roja, 3 cans of diced tomatoes. Okay, and when you have your onions kind of peeled like this, you're gonna wanna run them under cold water, and that kind of, it makes it like so that you don't like cry and stuff when you're chopping them, and it makes it a lot easier. Okay, and so I have all my stuff chopped here, and I didn't worry too much about getting it like finely chopped and whatever because it's all gonna be blended in the end. And so you can go ahead and just add all of this to there. And then once you got everything in here, you need 6 tablespoons of olive oil, dried cilantro, and pepper, and salt. And then depending on the consistency that you like, you can blend it for more or less time, but you just want to make sure, this is mine, but you want to make sure to get all the chunks of stuff out and everything like that. Okay, so now the salsa is on the stove, and it should be simmering, and it needs to be there for about 20-30 minutes. And so salsa originated from Mexico, from the Inca people, and it was just kind of a combination of tomatoes and spices and chili and stuff, and it can be traced back to the Aztecs, the Mayans, and the Incas. And so the Spaniards first found it when they colonized like Mexico and the Mayan people and stuff. We're gonna start preparing the pupusas. So in the pupusas, we're gonna have 2 different kinds. We have these vegetarian sausages that were frozen that we'll cut up and put in there. And then these are refried black beans that we'll also put in there. And then all of them will have like a cheese sauce. And so we'll start making the cheese sauce. Cheese, whatever kind you want. And then some wheat flour and butter. And then milk, which we have these ones. And you start by putting the flour and butter together. Okay, so you mix the flour and the butter and you get something like this. Okay, so this is the cheese sauce that I made. It was just the flour and butter and milk, and then I added some cheese to it. And then these are the beans. And these are refried ones, so you just have to add like hot water to them. Okay, so the salsa is all done, and I'm caramelizing onions right now for the rice. So we're gonna start on the dough for the pupusas. And typically, you'd use mesa habanera, I think is how it's called, in El Salvador and like traditional places. But an adaptation for my family is we use rice flour because of access to different things, and it's just something that in Minneapolis is more common to find in like grocery stores and stuff. So you need 4 cups of the flour and 3 cups of cold water and then some salt. Okay, so I added 1.5 cups of brown rice with the caramelized onions, and traditionally it would, in Spanish rice, it would be white rice, but because of nutrition and just health-wise, brown rice is what we choose usually because it's better for you, and yeah, that's culture. So once the rice is toasted, kind of like that, you want to add your vegetable broth, which looks like this now, and then you add a cup of the salsa that we made earlier to the mixture, and you cover it and let it simmer for 20 minutes with broth and the salsa. Okay, so now the rice is cooking, and I made the pupusa dough, and it should just look like this, kind of. It kind of looks like ricotta cheese. Yeah, and then you have cheese, meat or veggie meat, beans as your filling, and you want to get a cutting board. You can use the just the counter if you want, but I think it's easier to clean up if you use a cutting board. And you want to take kind of just estimate, but or you take like a really big spoonful and put it all down. And once you kind of see how much that is, you can add more if you want, or take some away, I guess, if you want to. And then using your hands, you can just kind of, you want to spread it out. It should look like that. So then you want to take your cheese and just get a little scoop. And then you can either take the beans or the little pieces of sausage and put a few on there. And you want to make sure it's enough, but not like overflowing or anything. And then you take the edges. So you want to take the edges, and you can just fold it all over. And if it breaks off, that's okay. You can just set it on top, really. It's not really perfect ever, but it comes together. So then it looks like that. Okay, and then you want to make sure that your skillet is heated and ready, and that you have a spatula to flip it. You can use your hands too, but sometimes it gets stuck. And then you just kind of pull it off there, get all the under stuff, and you can kind of flatten it out and just kind of tuck stuff in if it's kind of falling out. So it kind of is like a pancake, See, with all the stuff in there. Flop it on the thing and just let it heat up. It takes, I do like 3 minutes on each side and flip it consistently. This is what it looks like after just a little bit. The charred stuff is kind of from the stuff I cooked on it a little bit earlier, but that's okay, it'll come off in a few of them. And so you just kind of keep doing the alternating with the different stuff. Some people in different areas do things like sweet potatoes or yams, and different cultural things depending on where they're from and what their family likes, and just some people might do refried beans or Okay, so when they're done, they should kind of look like this. I like mine a little crispy, so they're hard to the touch. And yeah, different people might like different things, but I like mine like a little crunchy, and it's still soft on the inside, but on the outside it'll be a little like that, and it's golden brown on both sides, and then the stuff is all in it. So today they are circles, just for like convenience sake, but in pre-Columbian era kind of, they made them in like half moons like this to and they kind of put the stuff in the half moon. This is the finished salsa, and then here's a pupusa, and you can, if you break it in half, you can see that the cheese and meat is in there, and then there's kind of breading surrounding it. So you break it up into pieces if you want, and then it's easy to just dip it in the salsa. Okay, and when you're all done, this is what they should all look like. And then the rice looks like this, and then you can just, dip it in the salsa as you want, and then you have pupusas and rice.